Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
And it's 5:06 Tuesday morning. Thanks for tuning in here to O'Connor and Company. Thanks for starting your day with us. We're thrilled to be your choice to wake up, rub the sleep out of your eyes, and seize the day. At 6:35, we'll talk to Ron Halber, CEO of the Jewish Community Relations Council of Greater Washington, about the release, finally, of Eitan Alexander, the last remaining American citizen who was held hostage by Hamas. 7:05, former Capitol Police Chief Stephen Sund. We'll get an update on his situation there with regard to the aftermath of January 6th, his thoughts on Ed Martin, and talk about Police Week as we're continuing to honor our law enforcement all week long. It's 7:35, Joel Pollack from Breitbart News will join us about his new book, Trump 2.0, about the second Trump administration. 8:05 brings us Brad Burnham on the executive order over pharmaceutical costs that we heard from the president yesterday. And then at 8:35, Niall Gardner of Heritage Foundation. Talk about the British government right now and their attempt to reclaim their borders. UK is interested in enforcing border security. Imagine that. They're an island, though. Why is that an issue? I guess it is. We'll get that from Niall Gardner. In the meantime, our favorite Anglophile, Julie Gunlock. You love it when Niall is on because you're mad about that accent, aren't you?
Mad for it. That's right. The British way of saying crazy for it. You're right.
Exactly.
You're right.
Thanks for noticing that. I watch a lot of BBC.
You're very, very up to date on Anglophile.
Get on with yourself. Get on. So, we usually start our morning meeting, sort of recapping what our days were like. And I got to tell you, I was a little out of the news cycle because I spent almost the entire day driving, Julie.
Where were you?
We had a bit of an adventure. I think I feel like I've talked about my flirtation on and off with the carnivore diet. Have I not?
Yes, absolutely. We both
sort
kind
of started
do that.
Last summer, I think. And I do the carnivore diet in like 3 or 4 week sort of stretches. And the carnivore diet basically is you only eat products that come from animals.
Right.
Mostly meat products. But you can also, like, for instance, I eat a lot of yogurt. That is an animal product.
That
yogurt.
is. Yep.
High protein, high probiotics, lots of vitamins in there. Because you can get a lot of vitamins outside of just eating vegetables. And there's nothing wrong with vegetables, by the way.
Right.
But
vegetables contain trace amounts of carbohydrates. And some, right. If you're eating a potato, that's a lot of carbohydrates. But even things like, even
spinach and salad and broccoli.
They do have trace amounts, but like carrots have a higher,
They're good carbohydrates, and it's not really necessarily an anti-carb thing, but it's also, there's a lot of other stuff going on in vegetables that if you have inflammation, if you've got, various reactions to things, you can sort of do a carnivore purge for several weeks and then slowly start introducing vegetables in.
It really is, I will tell you, just really, as you're drinking your coffee, really fast. Schlichter, I remember a couple months ago, he said, because he does it too. I think he does it like you, where he does these spurts of carnivore, and he goes after 3 days. And that's what's happened to me when I do these things too. It's like after 3 days, man, you can feel it. It's almost instant. But you do this on and off,
and then when you go hardcore, then you start finding really fun recipes. Like I found a really great flatbread recipe. I can make flatbread, and it tastes like bread, but it is made of it's mozzarella cheese, egg, ground up pork rinds, and a little bit of baking soda.
Okay, can I just say one
thing?
Mix
that together.
I am such a 90s girl that you're just describing that, and all I can think of is fat content. And I know you're not supposed to think that way, but it's so hard for me. I'm like aerobics and, SnackWell's girl. It's so hard.
But that's not how your body works. That's not how your body works. And the fat actually flushes through with it. By the way, I should always preempt conversations like this by telling you
I am not
that if you're getting your health advice from me, you're going to die. All right. I'm not in any way giving you health advice. But this is something that I love. It's really worked out for us. Anyway, long story short, through a series of connections and friendships, we've met a doctor, the Millers, Brooke Miller, and his amazing nurse wife, Ann Miller. Yes, Ann Miller. I know. She's like a tap dancer. And they live down in
good God.
They live down in Washington, Virginia. And they're doctors, but they also have quite a few head of cattle. They're actually, he's like a sort of like a boutique rancher. Anyway,
He's a gentleman rancher.
He is a gentleman. It's not his full-time occupation, but it's something that they do with their property on the side when he's not, taking care of people's health. Is a great doctor. And one thing led to another. He turned me on to the carnivore diet. We were actually over at the Miller's house the day of the assassination attempt of Donald Trump. So we will always be bonded in a certain way. That entire event unfolded while we were down there for a lovely July dinner. And eating his steaks, his meat, his beef. Anyway, one thing led to another. We decided, hey, we want to buy a side of beef. And yesterday was the day to pick up the side of beef.
How drunk were
Meredith
you
and I,
at this dinner?
What an adventure. Oh, my God. It was so exciting.
Like
drove down there after the show.
I came home with a side of beef.
We were on the road for 3.5 hours to get down there. Loaded up the Tesla.
Is he in your backyard? Is this cow just roaming around eating the grass? That's what you've done. You hate mowing the lawn. You bought a cow.
No, I bought it. It's already it's a deceased cow.
Got it.
Yes,
okay,
it's already we picked it up. Processed. That's a good word for it. Yeah.
Yes, I know all the words.
That would be fun though to have a cow in my backyard. I think a goat would be better in my.
I thought you drove down there, you hitched it to your car, and you slowly drove back to Annapolis.
No, Meredith rode it back. She's from Oklahoma. She could just
yes, exactly.
ride that steer. We loaded up the boxes in the back of the Tesla. We had to get a charge while we were down there because it drains quite a few miles.
This would have been a
off
5-minute conversation without my interruptions. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's fine. And then we had just purchased a freezer just for our cow. We should name the cow now that I think about it. So
and
we
the freezer.
Can thank him every meal we have.
Don't name the cow.
It is. Should I tweet this picture out? I'll tweet out a picture of it so that everybody can see it on social media. The freezer is full. It is.
I love that it's you and Meredith. Like this is what
This is our married life. Yes.
This is what one of those families of like 12 get, and it's like you and Meredith.
Just the two of us. Well, so we entertain the midshipmen of the Naval Academy on the weekends during the school year, and they like their steaks and burgers. Over the summer, we do, and as you can see from the photograph when I put it out there,
300 pounds of ground beef.
The bottom third of my freezer now is just nothing but hamburger meat. It's nothing but it is gorgeous ground beef.
Was this a quarter cow? How much of a cow?
This is a half a cow. This is so
okay.
It's a half a cow, which worked out, I think, to 415 pounds, I believe.
Gosh, wow.
I think that's the number. Yeah. I got lots of short ribs. But the ribeyes. I'll put out a picture of these ribeyes. Everything's frozen. Everything's cut. The steaks are about 1.5 inches thick. So like one ribeye will be enough for me and Meredith for one meal. And what an adventure though. So I'm basically for the rest of the year I'm eating nothing but every single type of beef meal I will figure out over the course of the next 12 months. I should create a Substack just about my beef recipes.
You should.
My daily beef. The daily beef. Oh my gosh.
That's
The Daily Beef is my new website. The Daily. I'm grabbing it right now. Every day I'm going to have a new beef, including beef bacon. I've never had beef bacon before.
Beef bacon
I'm very
is delicious. Delicious.
It's glorious. So every single day I am going to absorb grass and carrot fed. These cows are finished with carrot. They eat grass, but then right before, like in the 6 months before, they're taken care of. They're
taken care
of. What?
Go over the rainbow
their
bridge.
Last meal.
Listen to you.
Their last meal is carrot. So they're
in Korea,
fed on grass.
In Korea, they finish the cows on mushrooms.
Yeah, and then they gave them
that.
daily massages or something.
Well, no, that's Japan.
Oh, all right. I am going to be eating glorious Virginia grass-fed beef every single day for the next year, and I'll give you a full report.
Carrot finished. Yeah, that's how you're going to label it. Carrot finished.
Oh, that's how you get your vitamins, man.
See, I should market it for these people. Carrot finished beef.
Yes.
There you go.
Glorious. I can't wait. I'll send out a picture so you can
I'm going to start a website called
get
The
excited
Sides.
as well.
The Sides, because carnivores don't
Daily
eat sides.
sides.
They just eat meat. The Daily Sides.
It's 5:15. I'm hungry now. I want a
Me
hamburger
too.
right now.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
I'm very excited about eating Virginia grass via this delivery system. You know, it's been processed on its own by the cow, the yet unnamed cow.
What?
And by the way, I'd welcome any recommendations on what we should name this cow after the fact.
Don't
I've got
name
its
the
tag
cow.
number.
Don't name the cow.
It's got a tag number. We just refer to them by
Why
the
can't you
tag
just
number.
call it the beef of the night? You don't need to say Bob's leg,
I guess that's true.
Bob's rib. Don't do that.
The carnivore diet is really something to explore, though. I got to tell you, because you'd be amazed at how quickly you get filled up on. You know, you can eat. Let's say, you know, the basic calorie deficiency for a diet, right? So let's say your resting burn calorie rate is like 2,000 calories a day. I'm just saying, without doing much activity, right? So if you only consume, say, 1,200 calories a day, then every week you're going to lose 1.5 pounds of weight. That's just the basic math of calories, right? It fluctuates depending on who you are and everything. So it's like, oh my gosh, well, 1,200 calories, that's not a whole lot, or 1,500 calories, that's not a whole lot, which it's not if the calories are coming in, you know, ice cream or chocolate candy bars or something. But you'd be surprised how quickly you get filled up with like 500 calories of beef. 500 calories of beef is a good amount of beef. That's several ounces of beef. And you get filled up pretty quickly, especially if you load it up with some butter.
I'm sorry, I stepped away. I was toasting my bagel. You know, this whole thing.
You do end up craving
this
dough.
whole conversation makes me want a baguette. I will. It is enormously valuable to look at these sort of the carnivore diet and these different diets and what works for you, because not everything works for everyone. Genetics are a really powerful thing. But
yes,
the fat does keep you sated. One thing that when I sort of experimented with these different programs, I remember, you know, because I've done co-pair. I know you've done co-pair. I was talking to again, this is so hard for me to get through my thick skull. But I remember I was sort of telling her what I'd eaten for the week. And I said, you know, I ate low-fat yogurt, you know, plain low-fat Greek yogurt. And she goes, go for the 4%. And I was just like, my reaction was like, no, really? And it's so funny because, again, if you grew up, if you're Gen X and you sort of, you know, were in your 20s, in the 90s, you know, you did your jazzercise, you know, you did your high aerobic activity. You know, this was before HIIT. This was before all this other stuff. It's really interesting how things have changed. And, you know, again, I grew up in a time where it's like minimize your meat, increase your vegetables. So, again, it's strange.
Right. If you're going to eat proteins, you eat lean turkey or lean chicken. But that's actually counterintuitive to the reality, which is this high-fat meat is actually okay, depending. Like, if you've got a load of mashed potatoes with it, then, yeah, you're going to have some issues.
Right. Exactly. But, yes.
So, I'm in a weird way. Like, when I make, I sound like such a douche at this point, but I make yogurt at home, too, as we've discussed.
Which I make fun of you for. Yeah. Of course.
The yogurt that I make, I use, it's half and half. And the other half is whole milk. So it's very rich and creamy yogurt. It's great, but it's not what you expect.
I am still mad about that time you brought me a yogurt, and I left it there, and I think Michael got it. I never even got it.
You left it at the fridge at the studio.
I did.
I know. I'll bring you another little container, but it's great. And it also, by the way, works as a great little side dish. Like if you're having steak, you dollop a little tart Greek yogurt on it as part of your, like a side, almost like sour cream. It's delicious. It's a great combo. I'm sorry. I'm so hungry now thinking about all of this.
I know,
But you're right.
great.
Genetics and individuals' metabolism is very different. For instance, I love running. I love running. I just did a 7-mile run on Sunday. It's fun. But for my metabolism, if I really want to like sort of lean up, I'm better off rather than running 7 miles. I'm better off slower pace rucking for 3 miles, but with 40 pounds of weight on my back. And just doing a fast-paced walk at like 15 minutes a mile instead of running 10 minutes a mile. You know what I mean? I actually will burn more fat and get more lean muscle growth if I do the slower weighted walk for a smaller distance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think also weightlifting, that's another thing that's difficult, I think, for people to understand the importance of building muscle. Another sort of legacy of, and this is exactly why, sort of government involvement. I mean, not to turn this into a policy conversation, but like the recommendations, you've got the dietary guidelines. What a joke. I mean, my entire childhood, it was eat carbs, minimize meat, and they still get the dietary guidelines,
the
still
food
get
pyramid.
it wrong.
The food pyramid still says that.
Yes,
Yeah.
and they have the one size fits all. I know we need to go, but anyway.
No, it's fine.
Well,
actually, since we are talking about the government and such, because there's a lot of health news that we're going to get to, but yesterday, along these lines that we're discussing, President Trump was speaking about the prescription drug prices overseas, and he shared an anecdote.
Yes.
Oh, hang on, here it is.
Very, very top guy. Most of you would have heard of him. Highly neurotic, brilliant businessman, seriously overweight, and he takes the fat shot drug. And he called me up, and he said, President, he calls me, he used to call me Donald, now he calls me President, so that's nice respect. But he's a rough guy, smart guy, very successful, very rich. I wouldn't even know how we would know this, but because he's got comments. President, could I ask you a question? What? I'm in London, and I just paid for this damn fat drug I take. I said, it's not working. He said, I just paid $88. And in New York, I pay $1,300. What the hell is going on?
The fat shot drug. He calls it the fat shot drug. And I love the guy who says, I just bought the fat shot drug. It's not working. That was my favorite part of the press conference yesterday. But we'll get more to your health recommendations as well as the new price of prescription drugs and the president's plan for it later in the day. But if you want tips on the carnivore diet, check out my new website, The Daily Beef. It's $5.25.
Coming up, Hamas has finally released the last American hostage, Edan Alexander. We'll talk about that. He's finally home with his family, and we'll have an update on the rest. There are still hostages being kept. Keep it here. It's 5:30.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:36 on O'Connor and Company. Thanks for tuning in here, and we're done talking about my my side of beef. In case you were wondering, but I could talk about it all morning if necessary. Just FYI, who couldn't? Coming up at 6:35, Ron Halber of the Jewish Community Relations Council of Greater Washington talk about the release of Edan Alexander. 7:05, former Capitol Police Chief Stephen Sun. 7:35, Joel Pollack of Breitbart. And 8:05, Brad Burnham from Turn Therapeutics, CEO. We're going to talk about the Trump prescription drug plan announced yesterday. It's Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock. Hello, Jules.
Good morning.
Hamas has now released the final American hostage being held. They should release all the hostages, needless to say, whether they're citizens of the United States, citizens of Israel, or other country. They're a horrible, terrorist, murderous organization, and the fact that they've been able to continue to hold Edan Alexander since October 7th is an absolute despicable indictment of the Biden administration. And the fact that he's been released now is a great success story for the Trump administration, but it's still it's too late. And I'm pained when I think, he was taken hostage when he was 19. Imagine, you remember when you were 19 going on to 21 years old? Those years were all spent in captivity. Yeah.
We have children, and you saw Eitan's mother just so emotional, obviously, so emotional when she saw him. But, there are 58 hostages still in captivity in Gaza being held by Hamas. Let's not forget about those 58 hostages.
Here's what it sounded like when Edan Alexander, the last remaining American hostage, was freed. Take a listen.
Ugh, goodness.
Just imagine the reunification there of that family. It's just amazing. Listen, this all happens as the president touched down this morning in Saudi Arabia. He wanted this cleaned up before he arrived, obviously. And they did get it done, and that's great. 584 days held by Hamas. Great story. So Kamala Harris decided to weigh in on this story.
Oh, dear.
Of all people, Kamala Harris takes to her social media and says, after 584 days in Hamas captivity, American citizen Edan Alexander is finally reunited with his family. From my meetings with the Alexander family, I've long admired this. Sort of, immediately she makes it about herself.
Right.
I've long admired their strength and courage, and Doug and I join all Eden's loved ones in celebrating his safe return. What did she do?
Nothing.
She literally did nothing. Her boss, the president, did nothing. The work to bring home the remaining hostages must continue. The international community cannot rest until all the hostages are home. She barely mentioned this when she was running for president.
You're right.
She barely mentioned this when she was vice president. In fact, and by the way, as somebody pointed out yesterday, and I wish I had been brilliant enough to do it, her own daughter raised money on social media for the captors.
That's right.
For Hamas.
That's right. Her hairy armpit stepdaughter, gross, who is now selling herself as a fabric artist or
a textile. She's
textile.
a textile artist. She's a textile artist.
Yes. She was featured in this.
She shaves her armpit hair and weaves it into cloth.
Oh, God.
And then sells it to French designers.
Okay. First of all, she doesn't shave anything. So that's not true. But, these people support Hamas. She can't have a conversation. Okay, Kamala. The first thing you should do is have a conversation with your stepdaughter. And then we can talk about what you've done for this young man.
Yeah, maybe clean up your own house there and make sure that your own stepdaughter
actually scrub it with bleach. If you could.
Murderous thugs who took Edan Alexander. It's amazing to me that she decided to chime in on it, but
yeah, it's gross.
This is the Democrats for you. We're going to talk to Ron Halber from the Jewish Community Relations Council of Greater Washington. He joins us at 6:35 to talk about this. It is 5:42. It's 5:48. It's O'Connor and Company this Tuesday morning in your nation's capital. Trump is getting questions about that airplane still, and it seems like I don't quite understand. People are sort of losing sight of the real scandal here. Just to break it down, the idea is there's supposed to be a new Air Force One. Boeing has fallen down on the job, and they have not been able to deliver the plane. In the meantime, the plane is needed, and so 747s that had been decommissioned by the government of Qatar have been gifted to the federal government, to be more specific. And the DOD is retrofitting them to be Air Force Ones. And then when the deliverable comes from Boeing, eventually, if they can get on the job and get it done, then this plane will become part of the Trump library. Right?
Yeah.
That's how it works. And these are these are Boeing planes too. These are 747s that Boeing made for the Qatar government.
Yeah, I was a little bit concerned about this
and they're trying to make a scandal out of this. I don't quite understand it, other than the fact, I mean, my problem is that it's Qatar, because I don't want to be beholden to Qatar for anything. But if this were France, would it be a scandal? Well, for the media it would be, because they think that Trump is doing this in some way to get rich.
Yeah, I was a little bit concerned about this yesterday too, but then Buzz Patterson, who I'm sure you follow, he's I believe he was an Air Force pilot, and he, carried the football, the nuclear football.
Yeah.
He had an interesting thread on this. He said the Qatar B-4 747 was built in the U.S. by Boeing. So just as you just said, like this is a Boeing plane. And he goes, Qatar is offering the jet to the U.S. military, not Donald Trump. And he goes on to kind of explain it, which made me feel a lot better about this. But you mentioned this is the bigger story is, why is Boeing dragging its feet? Why does it take so long to produce this plane? That's the bigger question.
That's the scandal. The scandal is Boeing getting rich off this contract and not being able to deliver it, now demanding more money. Listen to this. The current Air Force One, Boeing 747, it was commissioned by Ronald Reagan. Follow this timeline with me, will you? It was commissioned by Reagan in 85. It was built in 86. It was tested in 87. It was christened in 1990 under George Herbert Walker Bush. So commissioned in 85, and it was underway carrying the president 5 years later. This plane was commissioned in 2018. It was supposed to be ready in 2024. Now Boeing says it won't be until 2029. So after Trump's second term, which is, by the way, 8 years later because of the 4 years of the Biden nightmare. Boeing is the problem here, not Trump and not Qatar necessarily, although I would still prefer it coming from France. Here is President Trump getting a question while he was signing one of his executive orders yesterday. ABC News threw out a note, because ABC News, here's the other scandal, the media scandal. This thing was reported in the Wall Street Journal 2 weeks ago. Trump talked about it on Air Force One in February. There's nothing new in this story, except ABC News decided to say, this violates the emoluments clause of the Constitution, and Trump's going to keep this for his own personal use, which he's not. It's going to the library. Cut 2. Here's Trump when he was asked another question by ABC News.
Mr. President, what do you say to people who view that luxury jet as a personal gift to you? Why not leave it behind?
You're ABC fake news, right?
Why not?
It's only ABC. Well, a few of you would. Let me tell you, you should be embarrassed asking that question. They're giving us a free jet. I could say, no, don't give us. I want to pay you $1 billion or $400 million or whatever it is. Or I could say, thank you very much. There was an old golfer named Sam Snead. Did you ever hear him? He won 82 tournaments. He was a great golfer. And he had a motto: when they give you a putt, you say, thank you very much. You pick up your ball and you walk to the next hole. A lot of people are stupid. They say, no, I insist on putting it. And then they putt it and they miss it. And their partner gets angry at them. You know what? Remember that, Sam Snead. When they give you a putt, you pick it up and you walk to the next hole and you say, thank you very much.
Well, the best part, of course, is your ABC News fake news, right? Your ABC fake news? Yeah. Just wanted to make sure the credentials are there. It's 5:53. Coming up, we're going to kick off our 6 o'clock hour with this outrage over South African refugees coming to this country. Apparently the anger is over their race. We'll dive into it next.